Quigley in 5, underwater in the yellow lane.
Jazz Carling of Great Britain.
Quigley goes through.
The silver to Jazz Carling. Wonderful silver medal for Great Britain.
Welcome to the Honest Athletes podcast with
Lauren Quigley
and Jazz Carling.
Welcome back to episode 3 of season 2 of the Honest Athletes podcast. What an incredible episode it was last week with Lucy Charles Barclay. We've had so many messages about that episode, so thank you. We're so glad you enjoyed it. On this week's episode, we are talking about the good, the bad, and the ugly moments in elite sport. As most people know, sport is full of huge highs and real low lows. So we're going to chat through some of our most memorable moments and our most challenging times. So Lauren, how are you doing?
I'm fantastic. I'm feeling good. We had a brilliant last episode, like you said, with Lucy, and amazing messages from people that had listened, and just a brilliant episode. The Honest Athletes. Lucy came on and, we were talking earlier. She was super honest. So we appreciate that, obviously. It's in the title. But today we're going to talk about, all those moments in between, ups, downs. And it should be interesting. I'm not really sure what's going to come of this episode, actually. I've been thinking about it, and there's so much that happened in your career. I'm sure lots of people listening think the same if they went through sport. There's so much that happened, and there's so many moments where I was belly laughing in training or I was in tears, and it's hard to remember all those moments, but there was definitely some real lows. And like we've said before, people see a sports career and they see the medals, they see the records, they see the real highs, but actually in between those big events or races, there are low moments, there's injuries, there's illnesses and stuff. So, but I think we should start with the highs because we had a great last episode. So let's go with the highs. Now, is there any highs that particularly spring to mind for you, Jazz? Obviously, you've got your Olympic medals, which is amazing. I'm sure those were real highs. But is there anything, because I'm sure we'll get to those, but is there anything that you think that maybe people don't know about?
Yeah, I think it's probably, looking back, some of those moments when you're racing for your swimming club. And I remember, we spoke about it when we had our mums on, and my mum was gutted that she missed one race. Of all my career, and all she talks about is this race at our local pool, the Link Centre in Swindon, where it was relays, and she missed this relay. And that was probably one of up there with some of my best moments in sport.
Why was it such a high though, Jazz? What was the build up? Was the team we're supposed to come last? But
so you've got obviously your friends on your team, and I think I was maybe stepping up an age group, or because when you're younger you kind of represent your age group, then the age group above, and then the age group above. So I think I was up on the age groups, and we had a fairly strong team, but I think it was very young, and we were going up next to senior female athletes. And I think it was just because we were so far behind, and I was the last leg, the anchor. And I managed to catch the swimmers up to get into the race, and literally won by the fingernail of a swim. So on a relay and moments like that, and everyone went wild, we'd won the World Cup, and it was the best thing ever.
Unbelievable scenes.
Yeah, when in reality it was just a local little club gala, but everyone gets so into it and loves it. So that was probably a real special moment. And you know what, we've spoke about it a bit with our coaches, and I know we're going to go into that more with the coaches that we've had along the way. And one of my coaches in particular, who's actually no longer with us, he passed away a couple of years ago now. He just became, from coaching me as a youngster up to the age of 14 when he retired, he was honestly just this huge inspiration for me. And even before the Olympics, I was ringing my old coach that coached me at 14 years old. And the people that you meet along the way and that can really just have a huge impact on you and your life. And he was just one of those real special people. To give me the belief, and to, even though he still wasn't coaching me at all these competitions, Commonwealth Games and Europeans, I would always ring him before my races to talk to him. And it was just that soothing voice and someone that I knew that I guess trust and respect. But he also gave me the belief and confidence at a young age and really wanted the best for me. And I think that's the thing with coaches and volunteers. They have the power, I guess, to be able to either give you that confidence or belief, or I guess the opposite as well can happen. But I was very lucky to have that special coach. So I've got very fond memories of like my swimming club. And even I just remember, you know, making like best friends and friends in the club, and how special that is, the friendships that you make, and even having friends for life now. I think there are some of the best moments in sport is the people that you meet along the way and how lucky you are. What about you, Quigley? What's your kind of up there with some of those best moments?
Do you know what? I think when I was younger, touching on what you've just said, more like, did you ever do inter-counties and competitions like that?
Yeah, but Wiltshire weren't that good. I feel like we were in, was there two divisions?
Div 2.
Yeah. So it was like Sheffield, the top bit was the top division, then we were in the bottom bit. I'm sure we were always in the bottom. We might have made the top one once maybe, but...
That's great though. I think that was at Sheffield, so they split the pool in two, and they had Division 1, Division 2. I was Lancashire, although I live in Cheshire, I was Lancashire.
I swear, Lancashire would like the best every single year.
Well, you know, what can you say? No, yeah, so I was training at Manchester, so I was on Team Lancashire. And yeah, every year I raced in it, we won. I think we won 10 years in a row, something like that.
That is ridiculous.
Yeah, it was great, but it wasn't the winning really. I mean, the winning's obviously lovely and everyone wants to win, but it was just the team atmosphere of the whole poolside, because every team would be on one side of seating and obviously spectators on the other. But the atmosphere was just great, and there'd always be a technical difficulty at one end. So one end would be way behind the other and no one knew really what was going on, but everyone was painted. We were all completely red. We got told you can't swim if you're covered in paint, and yet the swimming pool was all the colours of the rainbow. Like, it was just so much fun, like the team atmosphere. And I think I loved it more because sort of like we're taking on the mentoring role in parts of what we do now. I was actually given the honour of being captain a few times in a row as well. And so to take on that role and for everyone to just look around and the whole team loving it, was just, memories like that are unbelievable. Very similar to UK school games. So I don't know did you ever do UK school games, or are you too old?
I'm not sure. I feel like I was. I could be too old. I don't have much memories of UK school games, so I don't know whether I did do it. I don't think
I'm not sure when it came in, but I think I did 3. And again, for some reason I was England Central, whereas I'm definitely not England Central. I'm England North, but England North asked me to swim for them after England Central. So every time I had to go with the first team. But again, similar people, similar ages, everyone just coming together, and it was a team atmosphere. And it was like they had an athletes village, they had a little food hall, they had all different sports. And so those sort of team, environments and atmospheres were fantastic. You had your little accreditation. You really felt like you went everywhere on the team bus. It was great fun. And again, just doing the sport because you enjoy it and loving it and not really thinking too much. I mean, UK school games was at the end of summer when you just had the whole of summer off and you were just maybe a little larger than you normally are in the season, a little bit less fit. And I remember my first year I did the 800 and it was just the funniest 800 because I think at 400 I was like, I still feel like I'm on a lilo in Spain. Like I really should not be here right now. But just great fun, great memories of, you know what, just get in, get stuck in. It doesn't matter too much about what you've done to the build up. And just those times that bring out just real enjoyment for the sport are the ones that are great memories. They're always great memories. But what about, so when you were younger, in terms of teams? Did you ever go away with your club or anything like that and train or race and just have a great time?
Yeah, we used to do, we used to go a lot away on competitions. I don't remember us doing too many kind of training camps away, just because I was from such a small swimming club, and, you know, it was very difficult for us to like go away and to organise all that kind of stuff and the funding and stuff. And I guess even now, I remember back however many years ago, the costs, like the monthly fees to be at a swimming club, so for the club to rent a pool, it is expensive. And so I guess parents are paying quite a lot of money, and say you have a few kids or a couple of kids in the pool as well. Obviously my mum and dad only had one, but there is a lot of costings that come with sport. And so, I don't know whether we did many kind of camps and stuff, but we did a lot of like the local competitions, and we used to go away all sorts. And I remember like singing on the bus, face paints, and there's such special moments from those sporting early days. And as I think we say, it's so important to enjoy it and make the most of it at that age. And even I remember, I feel like, back when I was younger, it was like, oh, we're going on holiday and Nationals is coming up, but a couple of weeks later, but it doesn't matter, we're going on a week holiday.
Yeah, I know a few of them. That's so funny.
It's like you look back and it's like, oh, yeah, we're going on holidays a priority, and then just go to the competition a couple of weeks later. Or like we'll miss it. And I think even like school, I've got amazing memories of secondary school. We did swimming in PE at the local leisure centre. We didn't actually have a pool at my school, but it was very close at the local leisure centre. And I just remember like some of my friends, obviously that I'd known, they knew I swam. So I was kind of like took on the teacher role with my teacher. So I was like watching them and watching some of my friends try and do wits and stuff. Oh, I was crying, like not in a bad way, but like, because like we were just having such a good time. I was crying with laughter. And like those moments, that you share with the special people around you. And I guess it does then kind of flick the switch, doesn't it, to when it starts, as we spoke even on the Mums episode, as it starts to get a bit more serious and things start to turn up a little bit, then it feels like it switches a little bit. And not so much that the fun's taken out, but that element of, oh, we'll just see how it goes. And that does feel like it switched. When do you feel like it kind of switched for you from going from, I guess, all fun and games to a bit more serious?
That's a great question. And I'm trying to think now quickly. I'm not sure, I think gradually it might have just happened over time when things become more serious, when the people around you, teammates, coaches, you can notice not a switch in them, because again, it'll be a gradual process, but people talk a bit more about times, a little bit more about qualification, a little bit more about teams that can be made. Can you qualify for that? Like you say, there's more talks around what suit are you going to wear? What goggles are you wearing? It's preparation for a race. You suddenly start getting proper warm-ups, proper swim downs. All of a sudden Mikey P is there taking your lactate and you think, whoa, what's going on now? I'm only kidding. But yeah, it just gradually over time, more and more importance is put on performance. And I don't think there was a particular time as much as, just over time. And I hated school. So I just always wanted to be at the pool. So for me, it was like, well, this is all I want to do. So maybe a bit earlier for me or a bit more quickly, I realised that I don't want to be in school. I want to swim. But if I want to swim, I've got to be good at swimming. And maybe that also pushed me a little bit more in that direction. What about you? Was there a switch or?
Yeah, I think, from moving to Swansea at 16, just before my 17th birthday, I think that's when I maybe didn't feel that there was a switch, I guess. But when you're moving away from home, and I guess that's commitment to the sport. I was committing at 16 to move away from my mum and dad, to start college in Swansea, to give swimming a go, to see where it could take me. And so I think probably wasn't, I obviously still really enjoyed it, but then it does I guess, turn it up. You've got to do more hours of training. There's a bigger level of commitment, expectation of you around poolside, physio, nutrition, psychology, all the different things. So I guess that expectation and commitment that you're giving to the sport then. So at 16, that was when I guess I focused just on swimming, whereas before I was doing netball and all the other sports. Whereas I did actually try and do the netball team at Swansea College, but it was just too much of a commitment trying to do 20 odd hours of swimming and netball and all the other stuff with it. But yeah, I think that was probably when I started to feel that things were starting to get more serious with swimming. But I guess the pressure side of it and when things start to get a lot more serious is when you start, I guess, getting that realization that you could make the teams and there's times to hit, there's places to hit, coming in the top 2 or winning or whatever. That's when it steps up. And I guess when you go from those junior years where you're only comparing yourself as to the best in your age group, to then when you've got to go in the open age and you're against everyone, I think that's when it starts to think, oh, I'm not just against like the same fish that I've been racing against for however many years at nationals. You'll then go into that open age group. So I think that's when it started maybe to get a bit more serious. And obviously when moving away from home and having to manage and do everything myself, that's when it got a lot more serious maybe, or there was a bit more expectations. But I was very lucky, even with my coach, Bud McAllister, that I moved to in Swansea. He was just very chilled. And, I said about in one of the other episodes where I missed the morning training, I rang him up crying because I felt terrible that I'd missed the morning. And he was like, no, don't worry, I'll see you later. So and he was probably one of the best coaches for me at that age because that change in going from being in a small swimming club to moving away from home, away from mum and dad, it actually seemed quite a smooth transition in certain aspects. But I guess in the other aspects, there was more expectation. And with that, I guess, comes a bit more pressure. Whereas I guess because you were at Manchester and then to Stockport, was there any difference in terms of that moving from the clubs, or was it just, I guess, then you start trying to make the teams and things like that?
Yeah, well, I was at Manchester for almost 10 years, and it was fantastic for my junior career and building into the sport. And I had a couple of different coaches when I was at Manchester, and the teammates were fantastic. Like you've said, you make lifelong friends. And because I was there for so long, there was like a cycle of lots of different people coming in, coming out. As you grow and get older through a club, you get to know different people, obviously, and there's different levels and stuff like that. At Manchester, it was more like there was lots of fun involved. And I mean, I remember, I don't know if you have any similar stories or if you were good, but when we were younger, we had a laugh. We trained hard, but there were times when we were tired. We'd go morning training, we were tired. No one wanted to swim. And so a couple of times someone went to the vending machine, bought a toffee crisp, threw it in the pool, hoping that we could tell the coach that there was a poo in the pool and we wouldn't have to get in. So
Crisp, what a great chocolate. I haven't had that in years.
Well, it's a toffee. It looks, we have a look at the vending machine. What's the best one to pick? Toffee crisp every time. So you never seem to get away with it, all right? So we'll just leave that one there. But yeah, we had some great fun. We went away on teams and had a fantastic time and we're very lucky to travel. And so then my switch to Stockport was at a point where I was like, okay, I've had a great time here, but I want to step up maybe into the senior stage. How do I do that? What's the best move for me? And Stockport was closer to my home than Manchester, so it made sense. There was some great athletes there, and it was a good move. So for me, it was more of a senior jump, hoping to be, and it worked really well for me the first couple of years I was there. So yeah, and again the team changed massively at Stockport. So it started with there's just 4 of us in the squad: me, Jimmy Goddard, Harry Needs and Russell Smith. And then it changed to lots more lads came, and it was just me and all lads still. And then it completely switched to me and all girls, apart from my brother and Kieran as well. So it was always changing, but the fantastic thing was everyone that I trained with, teammates at Stockport, were phenomenal. I couldn't have asked for better teammates, to be honest. And so, the difference, not really. Like, I still trained. I love training hard. That's what I love to do. So wherever I was going to do that. But it was just the hope to step up to make the senior GB team. So, yeah, what about you? So obviously you've just talked about the switch from going from Tiger Sharks to Swansea. And then obviously you had time at Swansea. And then you switched again to Bath. So how was that progression?
Yeah, I think that's probably, talking about some of the tougher times, I guess there has been quite a lot. And I would probably say there has been probably more challenging and more tougher times throughout my sporting journey, I guess. Even taking it back to when my dad had a stroke when I was 14. So when my dad was in hospital and trying to manage training and school and life, while my dad was in hospital, and we didn't know when he would be coming out, and he was actually in hospital for 6 or 7 weeks. And I think that was, tough, but swimming was kind of like that escapism for me. You
were at Swansea at this time, Jazz?
No, sorry, I was still
at Tiger Sharks. Right.
Yeah, still at Tiger Sharks at this time. So I think that was a very tough time, and looking back and trying to manage everything.
How did you manage it?
Yeah, I think for me, I was very lucky, and that's one thing, the sporting family seems to rally around you, and everyone was offering to take me training, to take me to the hospital, and he was in hospital an hour away. And so it was only when you've got those amazing friends from sport and swimming that I guess are there for you and will support you. So, and I don't think at the time I quite realised like how severe and how tough it was. Like, obviously it was very upsetting, and I was very upset, and I could see like how stressed and upset my mum was too. But it was probably more so, I guess, afterwards, and he suffered a lot of seizures afterwards. And that was very tough, was knowing, I guess, what to do at that age. And even, I think we actually tried to move to Cardiff as a family for swimming and school when I was maybe 15, I think. And we moved, and it was just too stressful, and my dad was having a lot of seizures. And there was one day where I had to call the ambulance, and like he locked himself basically in a bath, going to the toilet, and then ended up having a seizure, and we couldn't get in the door, so we had to knock the door down. And I guess calling an ambulance and going through all that at 15 and trying to work out what was going on was very tough, and I guess that family support is, mum and dad for me are huge supporters all my life and all my sporting career and journey. But I guess when that's happening and you start to think there are obviously mum and dad's health and looking after them is a huge priority. So then we actually ended up going back to Swindon. And then I moved to Swansea the year later on my own. But, that's tough. And I think there are a lot of times family has been my rock throughout. So being able to be with them and know that luckily my dad's made a very good recovery, but going through some very tough and challenging times away from the pool, which can actually affect, with the training and your thoughts and all those distractions when you are in the pool. So that's probably, I guess, looking back, one of the tougher times from my junior days, I think. And then obviously as a senior, it gets completely different. But obviously dad's on a lot of medication and stuff to control all that kind of stuff now. So we're very lucky that he's pretty healthy now and he seems really well. But that is a big challenge when you go through that. And I know, Lauren, you've gone through similar things, I guess, family-wise. And has sport been similar for you, like an escapism, or is it, I guess, been an added stress?
Yeah, no. Yeah, I've definitely been through some real lows. Lowest time in my life was I actually went abroad, went on holiday with my family. So me, my brother, mum and dad, and my two cousins, auntie and uncle. And as everybody knows who knows me, and hopefully has heard from us speaking, like you've just said, family is everything. So we are a super close family, and probably closer, but from this event. But we all went abroad, and the first night my uncle passed away tragically, just out of nowhere. He was super fit, loved his sport, was healthy, just fantastic. Like, always one of our biggest supporters, always spoke to me about, being the best I could be. And everyone in our family, we still talk about him today. And this happened a long time ago. And so, yeah, a really difficult time, because like you've said, family is everything. And he was a big support of my swimming. And so it was really tough. And I haven't spoke to my family about speaking about this, so I won't say too much, but it was tragic. And I remember my auntie was in talks with people to let people know. And obviously my auntie, coming from the swimming world and going to the Olympics herself, she knows a lot of the coaches, and they knew about my auntie and uncle together, and they were just very well known. My uncle worked for Brooks, Nike, and then bought Swim Shop. So he literally just bought Swim Shop. And I remember hearing nationals was happening at home, and people being told around poolside, and them all just people in tears around poolside and couldn't believe it. And, it was a real massive event. So then obviously the next competitions, when I was at home, people were, "Are you okay? How's Gaynor? How's, everything?" And really, really tough. And I think I had a lot of issues that I might not have addressed from that. So after that happened, I used to get really homesick when I went to teams. And I think just from it happening abroad and stuff like that, that played a massive part, and being away from family, and you don't know what could happen, and, all that sort of stuff. But anyway, it did happen. And it brought us really close together. We were close anyway, but we are so close, and I couldn't, they mean everything to me, and they're amazing. But I then, for years and years and years, got stuck back into training, often used him as motivation. And as you've heard me talk, Jazz, it took me a while to break the minute on the 100 backstroke. And that was one of my big goals. I really wanted to do that. And so I haven't really, I don't think I've spoken about this too much, but we were at not Barcelona, Kazan World Champs. And the day of the 100 back semi-final, I was super nervous, and I was like, I just want to break the minute. And my coach actually on the team was Joel. And Joel was like, just stop thinking about the minute, just go out and enjoy it. And so I was getting my bag ready for the race and ready to walk out. And I knew in the back of my mind, this was the anniversary of Simon passing, this exact day. And so as I was walking out for the race, I said, "Come on, Simon, just help me out here, get me under that minute." And I raced. I was pretty much smiling up the first length, because I just felt good for some reason. I focused on what I had to do, but I just was like, I can do this. Today's a massive day. And I just knew. I touched the wall. I'd broke the minute. I'd gone 59.7. And it was just so special, because I was racing for Great Britain, which is something that he always wanted me to do. He would have been proud, I think, and just to do that on that day, it was just unbelievable. And I touched the wall, and I went under the lane ropes to get out of the pool, and I just said, "Thanks, Simon." It was just one of those moments that was just, well, I'll obviously never forget it. But yeah, it obviously tragic event, and if I could go back and change it, I obviously would. Obviously that's impossible, but made that day so much more special than what it maybe would have been. So that's my real low moment in swimming. And I didn't know this episode was going to get this deep, but there you go.
I think it's hard, and obviously we will talk about and touch on some of those moments actually in sport, but think one of the things, there's so many things around life that obviously do impact your journey, and I guess there is huge low moments in life and how it can impact you, and it does take its toll on both you and, I guess, swimming. And from both being quite young, we have these things happening, and it is quite tough. And I guess at the time, I look back and I think, how did I manage to keep swimming and to keep going through it? But I think that's one of the special things about swimming sport. It kind of takes you to a place where it's just your time. And even when we talk about it, swimming is quite an individual sport. You just got your head under the water following that black line. And most people probably wouldn't understand it. They didn't do it. But when you're doing it and it's just your time underwater, singing in your head and all those kinds of things, and how much it can make a difference to even stresses at school and all those kinds of things, about how much it can bring to you. But I guess being an individual sport, I used to love the relays. Even playing netball at school, I used to love being a part of a team. And that relay, I used to feel like it took me to another place, another level. I feel like I was meant to do a team sport, but ended up in an individual sport.
Probably. I get you with that, though, definitely.
Yeah, it's like when I was swimming for a relay, it just felt like it was I didn't want to let anyone down. And that was my first senior team in 2009 at the World Championships in Rome on a 4x200 metre freestyle relay. And that was my first, I guess, exposure to a senior GB team, to racing internationally. And we managed to come away with the bronze medal with Caitlin McCatchy, Becky Adlington and Jo Jackson. And I was a bit like a rabbit in headlights, completely just in awe of the girls I was on a team with, but also, I guess, at my first ever senior competition. And that feeling that I got on the podium then, and coming out with the girls, adrenaline, goosebumps, excitement, so nervous, but just so excited to go out. And that was probably what gave me the first kind of taste of, I want to do that. I want to experience that again and again. Did you do much relays, Quigs?
Yeah, I loved a relay. I loved a relay all the way
doesn't
through.
love a relay?
Oh gosh, yeah. I mean, nationals used to do all the ones with the girls, medley, 4x1, 4x2, and I was lucky enough to go down the route of 100 back, 200 back, 50 back. So it meant that a lot of the time I was able to do the 4x1 medley teams, and yeah. Loved them. I even did the 4x2 heat at the Commonwealth Games. Yeah, they selected me for the 4x2 heat, which I was dead pleased with. But yeah, the 4x1 medley was always a great one for me. Unfortunately, got disqualified racing for GB at Kazan World Championships. Yeah, I love a relay. Now, talking of relays though, it's great doing them. But I'm sure there's been times, Jazz, where you've watched a relay and you've thought, this is epic, this is amazing. Now, I'm going to take you back to Duel in the Pool, where we were tied with America, Europe versus America. Do you remember? And they had to do that like tiebreaker race. And I'm sure, was it you, and someone else getting the crowd going on poolside and them getting ready? Oh, gosh.
So I've been to Duel in the Pool the year before. No, it was like every 2 years, wasn't it?
Yeah. I did Glasgow and then Indianapolis.
See, I did one in Manchester. And then
yes.
In America. And then, so they're every couple of years. And it was obviously Europe versus America. But I think what was so great is like 2009, I think it was the first time we'd done it. And we got absolutely...
I came to watch that.
Did you?
Yeah, I was like in the crowd like, oh, yeah.
So Europe got absolutely smashed by America. And like the Europeans just didn't seem to want to turn up to it, like hadn't bought into it. And I think obviously as a couple passed, and then in Glasgow, I was turning up and thinking, oh no, we're going to get absolutely smashed again. Yeah. Then you started to see some of the people that were there. We had Katinka Hosu, we had Maria Belmonte. We had a really strong team.
We had a good team.
We had a good team. But obviously normally it's a 2-day competition of just finals, no heats. So you have one final on I presume it was the Saturday, and then the next final on the Sunday or whatever day it was, day 1, day 2. and it's all finals. And obviously normally we're miles behind, but I feel like on the first day we were up. And
we were in front after day one, and I remember us all having dinner, and because we were never on teams together, everyone just sort of got, sat in their little groups, and people did mix, don't get me wrong. By the end of it, everyone was everyone's friend, but after day one, you've still got another day to go. But I remember us sat having dinner, and we could hear the Team American talk going on in the next room, and they were getting in trouble for being behind after day one.
Well, I think, weird. Yeah, we didn't expect to be ahead on day one. No. But then it was kind of like everyone got really excited because they were like, oh, we might actually win this. Yeah. So obviously going through the second day of competition, it was so close, they were clawing us back. And then to finish on the final event, to finish the whole competition, and it's dead tie for points. Yeah. What are the chances for that?
Yeah.
So obviously finishing dead tie, and then I guess I presume they didn't just make it up out of their head.
They did a mixed medley relay.
Yeah. So that must have just been in, like, if there's a tie,
there's a mixed medley.
But no one kind of knew what was going on. No one knew who was going to step up and race. And like, obviously, I think it's 4x50. There's no chance they're calling me up for a 50 mixed medley relay. No chance. So obviously people got the call up.
I do remember Fran was on it. I spoke to Fran, and she said she was throwing up because she just raced, and she was like, oh God.
I feel like Chris Walker-Hebben maybe did the
backstroke. Yeah.
I don't know who did the others. And then it was you, Quigley. I think it was Amy Wilmot and myself, and we were running around.
The crowd was well into it, weren't they?
Oh, looking back and actually having crowds at sport, like, it was incredible. Everyone was going wild.
Yeah.
We were going wild. We were going nuts. I had goosebumps. Like, I was so excited. And that was incredible, wasn't it? Like,
I mean, I was, not to get crude, but I was so excited. We were jumping up and down. The teams were literally right next to the guys diving in. We were just getting closer and closer to the pool. I've got pictures somewhere of us screaming. And I remember jumping up and down, and I was so excited. I turned to Renomi Chroma Jojo. I turned to Renomi and I was like, I think I've just weed. I'm so excited. And everyone, we were literally nearly in the pool for that last length. Now, long story short, we didn't win. But
we built this up like we
felt like we had won.
It was so close. It was so close at the end, and I just felt like we were in the race with them, even though we were just on the side screaming.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was
a great competition.
And it felt like those Speedo League or Arena League, whatever they're called now, where you're all part of that team and like everyone gets so. And it felt like that, where you were, I guess, racing for your team, the relays. And
well, the nice thing as well, Jazz, was they made it out as if it was like I think it was on Eurosport. It was on TV, because I remember the time running out because it was a dead tie and there was another race, and people were like, the TV's just got off, but we don't know who's won because there's. But what they'd done was they did like as you walked out, you were on the screens and you'd done something it said Jazz Carlin, and then you'd done a funny move or whatever. And I remember them getting us ready to film for it. And I was like, I don't know what to do. And they said, oh, why don't you do that? So I did that.
You're on a podcast.
Oh, sorry, yeah. I did that on each shoulder, sort of rubbed each shoulder, and then went cross-armed. And it's on YouTube somewhere. And I'm glad I did it, because I do look like a bit of an idiot, but it was quite funny to look back on now. Do you remember what you did?
I don't remember, but I always find those things so awkward.
Oh, so awkward.
Crossing your arms It's like, you look at it, and in a lot of other sports, it's quite normal because they do it all the time.
Yeah.
But with us, we're just not used to that.
No. But to be fair, I think the Americans did some good ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, they definitely did.
That was great. That was like, when you look back and some of those, being a part of the team, where it's all about the team. And I think that's what's great about the ISL, the International Swimming League that's come up now. is that everyone's racing for the team for the points, and it's not necessarily about what time you go, it's about what place, what points, and all that kind of stuff. And I think that's great for the sport in certain aspects of it as well, because growing up, when you're part of that team and you're racing for your team, that's what it's all about. So it's taking you back to those kind of childhood competitions and bringing you back, really.
Yeah, definitely. And there's so many of those. I mean, even just little moments. Like I say, I've belly laughed. I've had laughing fits in the middle of training where, you know, when you're laughing so much and you can't swim properly because you're just laughing. That just brilliant memories. But yeah, obviously you have your low moments. We've spoken about our lowest moments. But did you ever have, I know we have spoken about illness, injuries, all that sort of stuff, but was there ever just like mental moments where you, not mental like you go mental, but mental moments as in like you just feel low for a bit and you just think you can't quite figure it out, sort of thing?
Yeah, well, there's been a couple actually, and I think probably the main one was not qualifying for the London Olympics and not performing. I had glandular fever. Well, I found out I had glandular fever the year before. And we spoke about it a bit, but that feeling when you race and you just feel numb afterwards, it's like you don't actually feel that much, you just feel numb. And then I think, obviously, not qualifying for the Olympics and seeing friends and everyone that had made the team, once in a lifetime opportunity to go to a home Olympics. And then to miss out on that, I felt so numb. But that took me to a really low place. And I remember like I was struggling to sleep. And I remember one night, it was like 3 a.m. and I couldn't sleep and I was in Swansea. And then I ended up driving back to my mum and dad at like 3 a.m. because I couldn't sleep, just to be with like my family and stuff. And I guess that was tough. And that was probably taking me to, a very dark place where I didn't know whether I wanted to do swimming anymore. I didn't know whether I wanted to do the sport. I was just gutted. I didn't know whether I'd carry on, or like obviously having the dream of going to the Olympics and not qualifying, not going, seeing friends, everyone's so happy, and I just felt so numb and just gutted.
I mean, I'm sure you've said before you had to commentate on parts of that, didn't you?
So I went up to do some of the media. So somehow had to just switch off, I guess, from what I was feeling inside. And I think at times I'm doing quite a lot of talks, especially with Swim Wales over wellbeing and stuff. And at times, like I've probably not looked after my wellbeing as much as I should, and bottled a lot of emotions in and not really spoke about how much, I guess, it hurt and affects me missing out on 2012 and dealt with those emotions, I guess. And I think it's only when you kind of look back and just how tough it was, and like, I guess, sometimes when you're in sport, it feels like, life or death. It can feel like, one bad swim or this. It can feel like, I don't know, everything. It feels like everything. When in reality, when you kind of look back with a bit of perspective, when you've retired, you think, oh, it was just swimming, and I loved my journey, but, it was just swimming. But I think that tough time of having to overcome such a huge disappointment, and it seemed, even talking about it now, it does seem like quite a small thing to, I guess, go through. But when you're in the moment and it feels like absolutely everything, and I guess turned me a bit like emotionless. I felt like I couldn't feel emotions, and even the happiness, I couldn't feel things that made me really happy or really sad. I just felt a bit emotionless and numb. And that went on for quite a while, actually. And it was only until I started to kind of get back into it and get back into swimming and racing and build up my confidence again that I started to, I guess, find that love again. But in one aspect, it was, I guess, one of the toughest things, but I guess getting back into training, that also gave me more determination than ever. So having that disappointment really spurred me on to go even further heading into Rio, if that makes sense.
Definitely. I think without the lows, you don't really have the highs. And so you do need the lows. And unfortunately, at times, you obviously get them and you think, why am I getting these lows? What's the deal with this? And actually, like I've said many a time, everything happens for a reason. And you missing out on London would have been heartbreaking. Absolutely. You know, I can definitely imagine, and the numb feeling and all that sort of stuff. But actually, it then made Rio so much sweeter for you. You know, those medals mean just that bit more. That moment that I've spoken about in the podcast earlier, where my uncle passing, obviously, if I could go back and change it, I would. But actually, years later, when I managed to do it on that day, made it just that bit sweeter. And so there's bad things that happen, but there will be a reason for it. You might not necessarily know it right there and then, but later on, hopefully, you know, things will sort of reveal themselves. And actually, you know, listening to your story, I mean, we've done quite a bit of work together now. We've done podcasts, talks, all that sort of stuff, and things are going to be opening up soon. Hopefully we'll be able to go and actually see each other in person, Jazz. And it's just such a pleasure every time to listen to your story. I mean, people only get to hear it once, and I get to hear it over and over again and never get bored, because there's always something in there to listen to that's like, oh yeah. And it's almost like, I wish I'd have heard these talks when I was swimming. You know, they would have helped me in a massive way. And I think, like I said, that from London will have been really hard. And actually, you look back and you think, how did I get through that? You know, driving to your parents at 3 a.m. because you couldn't sleep. It's things that I get, and it's just things, that mode you go into of like to survival mode, really, isn't it? Of just to get through. But you look back and you think, God, how did I go through that and carry on swimming and still go on and make it? What was it, or who was it? Is there a moment that made you think, no, I want to get back in. I'm ready to get back in. This is what I want to do, all that sort of stuff? Or was it over time? What was it?
Yeah, it was, I think, mainly chatting to my old swimming coach who I spoke about before, Phil Millard, who was at my home club in Swindon. And he said, oh, let's do it one more time for Rio. And it was just then, I think I actually met up with him at the London.
Do you remember where it was, when it was?
I actually think he was down at the London Olympics watching Grant Turner, who was actually from Tiger Sharks too, at the London 2012 Olympics. And I was obviously down there doing a bit of media work. And I'm sure it was at like in Westfield, how it was then. And he said, oh, do it one more time for Rio. And obviously I hadn't swam for like two months, maybe 3 months. And then like having that chat with him, and I guess as much as like when you speak to everyone, you have to be the one that do all the training, the hard work and commitment. But that kind of conversation, and it was like I'd committed and wanted to do it, to give it a go for Rio. But then also on the other hand, on the other side, flipping a coin, I went through a bit of a low after coming back from the Olympics, because I guess Rio was all I could think about in the back of my mind for 4 years. So then when that had gone, I went through quite a low moment then of like feeling a bit lost and like not really knowing, what was next, what I wanted to do. I hadn't really thought beyond Rio, what was coming after. And that took me to quite a tough time as well, you know, being able to see past that competition, or, you know what I mean? With the Olympics, that was all I was thinking about. So when that was taken away, I felt like I guess lacked a bit of purpose. I didn't know what was next. I didn't know what I wanted to do. So there's kind of flips from, I guess, disappointments, but also sometimes when things are going really well and you've done everything you'd hoped for, you still have those moments. So I think that's really important to share. Have you got, I guess, any of those times that you remember from your kind of senior career, those low moments as well?
Yeah, definitely. I think I might have touched on it in the first episode of season 2. So not last one, obviously, that was Lucy. But at the 2016 Olympic trials, for me, the decline of mental health started way before. It was after the World Champs in Kazan 2015, where I just had the great meet, went away for summer, had a bit of time out, came back, and there was just lots of negatives that happened that season. There was the teammates that I had around me were great, but the ethos at the club seemed to change slightly. I think people were stressed out that it was going to be Olympic year, and things were getting taken out on people there was a lot of focus on the negatives. There wasn't much positivity around the training and stuff like that. And so it was a year of where I just started to hate the sport. Body image comes into it, being told that you're too big every day. Not just me, but all the girls. There was a squad of girls. Nothing really seemed to be good enough, to be honest. And so we went away to South Africa like we did normally every single year with the club that I was at. And I remember I was in a bad place, a real bad place. And everything we were eating was being monitored. There was no relax. There was none of that balance. It was just literally like, I remember being told, well, we all remember being told, don't have any carbs from the buffet. Have sweet corn. Sweet corn's got carbs in it. And I was one of the older ones on the team. So I'm looking at the younger girls thinking, this is not good. This really isn't good. So anyway, it was just a year of really negative energy and really not nice stuff. And I won't go into half of it on this podcast because it's things that don't need to be said on the podcast right now. But yeah, it was a tough year. And I wrote something on my laptop. I've shared it on Quigley Sport that was just literally like, I hate all of it. I hate swimming. I don't want anything to do with it. I want out, basically. I'm in not a good place. And I really wasn't.
And this is heading into what was the Olympic trials.
Yeah, so we went to South Africa earlier, I think, that year. I think I wrote this in January, so we must have gone earlier. And so the Olympic trials were normally in April, I think. Anyway, so I just did what I had to get by. And for years, everyone had said, this is your year. I'd done really well at World Champs. This is your year. This is your year. And every person that said that to me, in the back of my mind, I was always like, but it's not. I just knew it wasn't going to be. I was thinking, it's not my year. This is not going to be my year. I'm not going to make it. And physically, I was in great shape. I really believe if we're going off physical, I could have made it, definitely. But mentally, I wasn't there. And mental is, when you get to a race, it's 90% of it. And yeah, I just basically was numb before I even went to the trials, to be honest. And kept it to myself because I sort of took on it again, the role of, I was the oldest one there. I wanted to make sure all the girls were good. They were ready to go, wanted to be positive around them. And so I didn't really tell anyone because everyone was so excited that this should have been my year and I should have been to the Olympics that I kept it all in. Something that I really regret doing. And again, is definitely where my passion for the mentoring comes in because I wish I'd have spoken about it. But I remember getting to the Olympic trials, did the heats of the 100 back. This was the race that I was supposed to go. I arrived at the pool. I was walking around poolside and I was on Mars. I was not at the Olympic trials. Mentally, I didn't know what I was doing. I was just in, that automatic mode of like, I just going through the motions sort of thing. And one of the coaches on poolside, he was the coach for Leeds. I'd always got on with him. We'd been on teams, England Talent, stuff like that. And so I knew him really well. And he was like shouting me, Lauren, as I was walking past, Lauren. And I was just walking. I was numb. I just didn't know what was going on, really. I was just walking down poolside. Completely didn't even notice he was there until I got right to the end. And I turned around and he was like, what's going on? And I was just like, I'm sorry, I don't know. I just didn't even notice you was saying my name, nothing. So I was in like a very strange place. Anyway, warmed up, spoke to my coach. My coach was like, there's a kit, a GB kit with your name on it, and all that. And I'm just sat there going, I don't even care. And that's obviously really bad to think now. And really upsetting, actually, because I love swimming, but at that point, I hated it. And so I remember going down to the corner for the 100 back, and all the girls are there. And I just looked around the room, sat in my chair, looked around the room, and I thought, I really don't care if I come last here. I just want to get out of here. Now, that's really not the place you want to be in to walk out at the Olympic trials.
But it's also not like you, because I feel like I've been in a call room a couple of times with you, and you've always been the life and soul of the party. And
Yeah.
And I feel that totally. And you put on this face, and like, whereas behind you just feel empty.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been there.
Yeah. And normally I'm good at covering that up. Like I say, I tried to do it for the girls all that year. And so, yeah, like you say, I'm normally life and soul, and I just wasn't. And I think the girls noticed, which probably helped them out a bit. But yeah, I just missed out on the team. I don't even know by how much. I just remember touching the wall and getting out. I haven't made it. I don't want to do the rest of the events for the rest of the week. My brother Grant still had events, so I had to hang around. And so I came out. My coach just sort of went, and I just sort of went. I hadn't cried, went out to my parents. Oh gosh, I was in absolute tears to them. I hate it. I want to get out of here. And it was a bit of a shock for them, because they were like, what's going on? Sort of thing. And then, so yeah, after that, I hung around at the pool to cheer on my brother. We'll always support family, obviously. But it was really difficult to be hanging around. And people didn't talk to me, because it was as if someone had died, like they didn't know what to say. And I was still going around trying to be that person going, it could be worse. If people had done a bad race, I'd go, could be worse, could be me. I was still trying to make light of it, even though I was probably in one of the darkest places I've ever been. And
yeah, I think even at times, and it's probably more so that I've noticed it now, like being at the GB selection trials a couple of weeks ago. And because I'd stepped away, and I think sometimes in swimming, I guess you all go through your journey, your moment, and it's about, I guess, getting the fastest time, qualifying, your own personal goals. And I remember at times it's quite hard to look quite outside. Like in 2016, I was having a really tough time when not qualifying in my first two swims, and it was all about that last swim. And I was quite engrossed in that last swim, and all my thoughts and stress was about that one swim. And I don't really remember those trials that well. You know what I mean? And it's quite hard. But then now when I look back and being at the GB trials a couple of weeks ago, and like I'm the first person there, making sure everyone's okay, like, lifting people up when they've done well, or when they've not been so happy. And it's only now where I guess, because at the time, sometimes things can, like, I don't know, you get so tunnel visioned in like what the focus is for you at times. And like, I don't like to think I'm a selfish person at all, but when things aren't going and you've had that dream and Rio was in my mind for so long, I don't really remember those trials so well, because I was so focused on getting that last swim, trying to qualify, when I swam so bad all week, sorry. So it's quite hard. And I know, I've been there where in 2012 I hadn't swum well, and it's like people don't know what to say to you.
No.
You get taken off funding and all that kind of other things, the repercussions that happen from just one swim or one race or one event.
That's the other thing. That's the other thing. Like I wasn't even thinking about funding. I wasn't thinking about, I've missed out on the Olympics at that point. I was so low. I just was like, get me out of here. I don't want to be here. This is not the place I want to be. And the most upsetting thing for me was I hated the sport that I'd loved for all my life. And now this 1 year that everyone had been looking forward to, and I hadn't made it, I'd let everyone down. Basically, that's the feeling. And anyway, I went away. I spent 3 months in my room, didn't come out. It was terrible. It was absolutely, I can't imagine what it was like for my family who, they don't know what to do. But again, I didn't know what to do. And so there are those few special people that helped me through it and got me out the other side. And actually made me love swimming again, which was the number one goal. It was to just get back in, not to be a world beater, not to do anything other than love swimming again. And now, I do love it. And I've gone through that. And again, I go back to, it's where the passion for mentoring and helping others in the pool come from. So yeah, there's positives that have come out of it. Because if I hadn't have gone through that, would I have the depth of, empathy and knowledge in the sport? Probably not, no. And I really draw on that when I'm speaking to athletes and all that sort of stuff of like, look, it looks great at times and the majority of the time, but actually there are things you have to try and deal with and go through. And it's just about navigating through those in the right way. So yeah, that was a real low time for me. Lowest point I've ever been personally. Obviously, there's been things that happen in life that are awful and worse, but for me, very, very bad place. And it's never easy, but it happens.
Yeah, I think you do. As we talk about it, there's some amazing highs and even probably some of the best races. I'd probably look back to Commonwealth Games year 2014. We had Commonwealth Games and Europeans, and that was probably one of my best moments in sport, was that year winning Commonwealth Games and Europeans. And people would, I guess, think the Olympics, and it was like a real special moment, but there are different things and different highs and I guess come with the lows, but overcoming something which has been so tough does make you really appreciate those moments and those high moments as well. And again, for you, I guess, saying just to come back, just to want to love it again, and how important it is to still love what you do. And at times I haven't always loved swimming, I haven't always loved it, but how important it is to bring you back to that moment of, I guess, being the little kid that just loves being in the pool, loves swimming and all that kind of stuff, to still have that love and drive and want to be there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I realise this is probably a low note that we're finishing on, but I think it's really important now. I'm going to try and switch it up, but it's really important to try and stay in that child mindset for as long as you can within sport of just love it, just get stuck in, don't overthink it, keep it simple. That when a parent tells a child, we've got to get out now, we've got to go and have a shower, and the child's like, no, come on, I'll just carry on and try and stay in that mindset for as long as you can within sport and bring it out as much as you can, because that's the place you want to be, keeping it simple, enjoying it, and just getting stuck in, like I said.
Well, I think that's a great way to end episode 3. Thank you so much for listening. We really appreciate every single message. It just lifts us. We send it to each other and we're all so excited every time we get a nice message and feedback. Obviously, you can rate us on all the podcasts and give us a thumbs up on YouTube. But thank you so much for listening and I guess going through those tales and stories with us. But I guess for us, we want to be as honest and open and share some of those moments, share the highs, but also some of those tougher moments as well. So thanks for listening. Obviously, you can watch us on YouTube. You can also listen on Spotify, Anchor and Apple Podcasts. There we go. I've got it all.
You got it.
But yeah, we look forward to seeing you next week.